There is one musician that I've been listening to for an incredibly long time. One who has made some of the best music I've ever listened to, and who also created my favourite album ever made. He's written and produced songs on the likes of Eminem's The Monster, Memories by Maroon 5, Justin Bieber's Holy, Ghost, and Anyone. He's worked on music for BlackPink's Rosé, BTS's Jungkook, Camila Cabello, Miley Cyrus, Halsey, and many more. He's also made absolutely amazing tracks that he's released himself, such as Stupid Deep, Timeless, Hand of God, and Kingdom Come, to name a few. However, so few people know who he is, and he chooses to do that. He says fame isn't something that he wants, it's something that he's willing to give up if God lays the choice out in front of him. And on top of that, he was helping out at a Senate hearing very recently about Live Nation being a monopoly. The man that I am talking about is the producer, writer, singer, rapper, and much more, Jon Bellion. Jon Bellion was born in Lake Grove, New York. Between the ages of 7 or 8, his brother brought home a Triton keyboard. He would sneak into his brother's bedroom whilst he was gone and make beats that he would hand out at school. He eventually went to Five Towns College in Long Island, where he spent every day making music. He would go as far as to trade beats with people so that he could have them impersonate him in class so that he could just spend more time making music. After graduating, he would get a call from Cara Dioguardi, who would eventually become his manager after a few students would give her one of his mixtapes. This led to him going to LA to better his craft. However, he chose to then go back to New York and set up shop working on music within New York City. In a taxi on the way back from a trip that he had done abroad for a writing class, he overheard a particular song, and this song was Eminem's The Monster, where Rihanna would sing his hook. This was the first big musician of Eminem's magnitude that would have someone like Jon's music being used within it. He then went on to write a song that eventually became Trumpets by Jason Derulo, which if you listen closely, you can still hear subtly Jon's vocals in the background. During this time, Jon would release his first album, Translation Through Speakers, which is far more tame in comparison to what he does today. Everything is just far more toned down. My two favourite songs on this album is Timeless and The Wonder Years. This is some of Jon's early work, especially for what you can actually get access to on main platforms like Spotify or Apple Music. I've seen some online try to consider a lot of this as corny, but this is something that truly has elements of what would eventually become music that many would listen to, and if not, the masses as a whole would listen to. The next album though is truly a well-rounded album, The Separation. This album has some amazing gems such as Kingdom Come, Halloween, Two Rocking Chairs, One More Time, To My Future Wife, and New York Soul. Two of these songs though, however, really pushed him further into the spotlight, with Jim Morrison and Kingdom Come. Both really show just how amazing he could be given the right circumstances, with one far more traditional track that is fun and enjoyable with Kingdom Come, and then Jim Morrison truly giving us the production value behind the guy who we would eventually know to write some of the best produced songs that we have seen in the modern day. However, the album that would shoot him into his own micro fame is The Definition. Not just because we had some outstanding tracks such as Oh, Luxury, Simple and Sweet, Human, Run Wild, and more, but also because we saw the introduction into his vlogging series, the behind the scenes vlogs of how he makes his music, which was generally called The Making of, fit in whatever song title appears. I remember watching all of these when I was younger, and I thought it was some of the coolest stuff on the internet. It was something that really just energized me into wanting to just create stuff. It was cool to see the behind the scenes process that you just rarely get any glimpses into. You can see by some of the moments that he truly has a passion behind the music that he is making.
It's about the next kid. It's about the kid who's 11 years old right now who hears this and gets in on the ground floor of my career and sees what I'm doing, and hopefully I could be a light to shine and somebody that says, yo, he's a creative dude and he does what he wants and he's very good at it because he cares about the craft. All the people that we've chosen to surround ourselves with and whatnot, we care about the craft of music making. Not like, give me a subpar beat, give me a make sure that the verse is really dope but the beat's subpar, or the beat's retarded and the lyrics is because we just want to make sure it's a hit because the beat's crazy. No, every aspect, every facet can be analyzed and sat down with somebody who's, the people who listen to music. The people who listen to music. That's who you create for. That's who I create for. That's who we all create for.
Even with all this success, the thing people didn't fully realise was that Jon was in fact signed, and not only that, his first 3 albums were free on purpose, which was very unusual for most musicians. He chose to publicly not talk about being signed and tried to hide it to prove a point, and fight against the narrative that happens with artists on the come up, which is that once they get signed, everything changes and they're only being forced to make specific types of music. He wanted to show that he still had full creative control over what he was doing, and it wasn't the big guys above telling him what he can and cannot make. The second thing was those free albums would be the core of building his fan base. He kept them free to build up what would eventually be the lead up to the best album as a whole package deal in my opinion, with The Human Condition. I remember being 13 when this album came out. I was hyped to listen to it, to the point that I stayed up till midnight in the UK so I could get a hold of it and just listen to it before school. At the time, I didn't use Spotify and had everything on Apple Music, so it was the case that I definitely pushed my parents to give me access to this album. So I spent £10 on getting the album, and it was probably one of the best purchases that I had made. With their money, of course. There's a few odd songs in there, but they still fit the overall feeling that the album is giving. And the idea behind the album is that it's telling a load of stories about Jon and the feelings he has as a human, and basically what we're going to relate to. The album was designed to be listened to as a whole collective. You can listen to individual tracks if you want, and I'm going to list off a few in a moment, but the idea behind this entire thing is that if you listen to it all one by one in the order it was intended, there will be a massive payoff in the end. You get some of the most amazing moments with songs like 80s Films, New York Soul Part 2, Maybe I Don't Know, Woke the Fuck Up, Weight of the World, and Guillotine, but the most impactful song on the album is the song that is truly the peak of this album and the magnum opus of such, which is Hand of God. This song is truly special. It covers a load of human feelings from grief to lust to happiness. However, the second half is truly that shows off Jon's specialty of production. We get a load of choruses from the previous songs on the album that come in here through the choir, and it's really nice to see, and we even get little moments that aren't necessarily from the choir but production value added in from those other songs as well that kind of loop in the whole album as a whole to create this moment at the end. It's truly something that makes you fall in love with what you have just listened to as an overall album, especially if you sat there listening to it in one sitting. This album was special for me as it was the first one that I wanted to go out of my way to buy, but also it's the album I would listen to all the time. It's also the album that I pushed all my friends to try and listen to, and to this day, many of them do listen to his music. Many people, when I was younger, were pushing him away when I was trying to explain to him how great his music is, but so many of them now see just how great he is. The whole album works together so well, and brings together so much about what is the human experience. Also, the album art of every single song on this album, and the album art of the album itself, is absolutely superb. After this, Jon went on a little bit of a hiatus, not for too long though, and he would eventually release the album Glory Sound Prep, which has again one of my favourite songs that I've ever listened to, Stupid Deep, and it's always a song that when I hear it, it forces me to be far more grateful about life itself and what I have. We only saw one behind the scenes video this time, and Jon was now entering into his phase of extreme disconnect from the internet, and generally his career. By this point, Jon had had his all-time low. He would get off stage and say to his wife about how he was done making music, specifically by just saying, "I'm done."
This early is terrible to get emotional already. I got off stage, I said, I'm done. I'm done.
You stopped your tour?
You said you're done?
I finished my tour.
But you're not.
Oh, no, absolutely. But it's just like, I've had this conversation millions of times for the last 6 years, and I've been so blessed to make music for other people, to keep my ideas alive. Like Jon Batiste, Bieber, talented people, man, that have decided to work with me, that I'm in a better position now to release my own stuff. I'm gonna have to go on a tear, but I want to move back home. I just, all right, God, so it's all right.
You submitted.
It's over for me. I told my wife I'm gonna work at McDonald's. It's over. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm gonna have a studio in the basement. I'll work with my friends and we'll see what happens. And it was like,
he said that he would be willing to go work at McDonald's due to the pressure of being an artist, performing so much to pay off a debt to the record label for the advances they give. During this time, however, he didn't push back from music entirely. He chose to produce full-time. He would go on to make songs such as Memories, Holy, On the Ground, Seven, Shameless, Midnight Sky, Ghost, Anyone, Graveyard, Liar, Fall in Line, and many more that I'm not going to list for you right now. One of my favourite songs that he's ever worked on is called Everything We Need by A Day to Remember. It's just a great song all round, and it's just a lovely song to listen to, especially when you consider, like, I never knew who these people were, to be honest, like my sister did, but I didn't have a clue who A Day to Remember were, and I just found this song looking through his, discography ages ago and be like, oh, that's really cool, and then yeah, I chose to give it a listen to, and I was like, wow, this is actually great, and I loved the song. He would then go on to appear on some songs that he had worked on when it comes to the overall album, such as the Jonas Brothers with their more recent album called The Album. He would also appear on a couple others, which brings me to Beautiful Mind Records. Jon had two words connected to him for many years: Beautiful Mind. They were connected to a close group of friends that he had, however he would then go on to create Beautiful Mind Records, which as of the time of making this video has two artists signed to it. One is a duo called Lawrence, who are two siblings called Clyde and Gracie, whose albums have those fine tunings and Jon's writing all over it. They also had a song with him called False Alarms, where Jon appears on directly and says the words Live Nation is a monopoly, which would eventually lead to the more recent events in his life. We also have Tori Kelly, who is a more recent sign. He also appears directly on the song Young Gun, but like Lawrence, he had worked on the whole album as well. He's been doing a lot, though publicly it didn't seem like it. Which brings us to present day. Between the time of Glory Sound Prep and now, we hadn't heard much of Jon really at all. However, he recently appeared on George Janko's podcast, and damn, it was juicy for anyone who absolutely loves Jon Bellion. And if I'm honest, the moment I saw that podcast appear on my screen, I was so hyped because it's been so long since seeing anything by him, and I was like, we just are hoping now that if he's on this, there's got to be a new album around the corner. Within that podcast, we did learn a lot, the first one of which was that yes, there is a new album in the works. But we also learned way more about his fight against basically the big man above, the percentages that he would get on his songs, which beforehand were tiny in comparison to what he's allowed now, which basically means that he feels as if the leash has been fully taken off and he now has the full creative control that was worrying him for years. Which might remind you about that idea that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, about this idea of him wanting to, go against that narrative that he's being controlled by these people once you get signed. And this is kind of where the trap kind of lays in, because he obviously didn't believe that he was fully trapped, but also, when it comes to the fact that you're making like pennies for their pound, it basically meant that, yeah, you're going to be making whatever will be mass market appeal to be able to make enough money to justify making anything for yourself. We also learned that Jon has become a father and husband. He also became more enlightened with his faith and seems to be doing really well, and I'm excited to see the future of his music. Now I can't wait for Jon Bellion's next album. He's my favourite artist, as you might have been able to tell from this video, but also an incredibly talented guy. I love his work, and I can't wait to see what he's got in store for us when we eventually get that album. I'll be on board for whatever this album has in store for us, and I hope to see more things like Jon appearing on podcasts like we saw with George's. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. It's a bit of a different one for the channel, I know. I just wanted to make a video that's a bit more out there, and currently going through a little bit of a phase of some different things and trialing out some stuff for the channel. Don't worry, this is going to be the only non-gaming related video for a little bit, but maybe the upload schedule might be increasing a little bit, but we'll see how you guys like the videos that are going to be coming soon, and hopefully you guys did enjoy this one. I know it was different, I just wanted to talk about something that I feel incredibly passionate about, and if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to leave a like, do subscribe for more content down below, and if you do want to support the channel directly, make sure to check out the Patreon for early access to content, like my normal video essay content anyway. Now that all being said, I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.